The text message came at 2 a.m. Dad, I need help. My boss won't leave me alone at this work party. Can you come pretend to be my boyfriend? Just for an hour? Jack Morgan stared at his phone, the blue light illuminating his tired face. At 42, he never imagined he'd be playing boyfriend to save his daughter's colleague. But that's exactly how he met Elara Chen, never suspecting that beneath her vulnerable exterior lay a woman who controlled half the city's financial district. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Jack's fingers hovered over his phone. His 20-year-old daughter Mia rarely asked for favors, especially not in the middle of the night. He glanced at the pile of architectural blueprints on his desk. The renovation project deadline loomed just days away. But Mia's text had an urgency he couldn't ignore. Where are you? Send me the address, he typed back. 3 dots appeared, then, Skyline Lounge, downtown. The tech company party. Come to the main bar and ask for Elara. She's wearing a blue dress. Just act like you're together. Her boss is being super creepy. Jack sighed, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. He changed out of his worn t-shirt into a decent button-down and jeans. The mirror reflected a man who looked his age, laugh lines around his eyes, a day's stubble, and the permanent worry crease between his brows that had appeared when his wife died 6 years ago, leaving him to raise Mia alone. The Skyline Lounge was packed with young professionals in expensive clothes, making Jack feel immediately out of place. He spotted Mia across the room, her bright red hair unmistakable even in the dim lighting. She caught his eye and subtly nodded toward a woman standing near the bar. Elara Chen stood with perfect posture, a glass of something amber clutched in her hand like a shield. Her blue dress was elegant but conservative, her dark hair falling in a straight curtain to her shoulders. What struck Jack most was the tension in her shoulders as a man in an expensive suit leaned too close, speaking into her ear. Jack straightened his shirt and approached. Sorry I'm late, sweetheart, he said loudly enough for the man to hear. Elara turned, confusion flickering across her face before understanding dawned. Jack! You made it. The relief in her voice was palpable. The man in the suit straightened, assessing Jack with narrowed eyes. And you are? Jack Morgan. Elara's boyfriend. He extended his hand, meeting the man's gaze steadily. Marcus Winters. CEO. The handshake was unnecessarily firm. Elara never mentioned a boyfriend. I like to keep my personal life private, Elara said smoothly, sliding her arm through Jack's. Her touch was light but deliberate. Well, Marcus said, his smile not reaching his eyes, don't let me interrupt your evening. As he walked away, Jack felt Elara's arm relax slightly. Thank you, she whispered. Mia said you'd help, but I wasn't sure you'd actually come. No problem, Jack said, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. My daughter said you needed backup. Elara's smile was genuine. Your daughter is an angel. She's been at the company for just 3 months and already she's the only one who noticed my situation. Jack glanced around the room. So this Marcus guy is my boss, yes. And he doesn't take no for an answer. At least, not from me. Her voice was calm, but Jack detected an undercurrent of frustration. He's been pushing for private dinners for months. That's harassment, Jack said bluntly. It is. But it's also complicated. She took a sip of her drink. I'm sorry to drag you into this. Mia mentioned her dad was nice, but coming downtown at midnight for a stranger is above and beyond. Jack shrugged. Single dads develop a certain skill set. Crisis management is our specialty. Her laugh was unexpected and bright. Well, crisis manager, would you mind staying for a little while? Just until he leaves? I'm all yours for the evening, Jack said, then felt his face warm at the unintended implication. I mean. I know what you mean, Elara said, her eyes crinkling with amusement. And I appreciate it. What Jack didn't know as he stood beside Elara, making small talk about the weather and his renovation business, was that he was pretending to date one of the most influential women in the city. Elara Chen, at 38, was the silent majority shareholder of Horizon Investments, which owned controlling interests in dozens of companies, including Tech Fusion, where she deliberately maintained a mid-level position to monitor operations from the inside. Only a select few knew her true role. To most, including Marcus Winters, she was simply a competent project manager who somehow couldn't be fired despite rejecting the CEO's advances. The board of directors knew better than to question her continued employment. As the night progressed, Jack found himself genuinely enjoying Elara's company. She listened intently when he talked about his small architectural renovation business, asked thoughtful questions about his projects, and shared just enough about herself to seem open while revealing surprisingly little. "So you work in project management?" he asked as they found a quiet corner away from the crowd. "Something like that," she said with a small smile. "I make sure things run smoothly behind the scenes." "And does Marcus make that difficult?" Her expression clouded. "He's new. Brought in by the board last year. He has certain ideas about how things should work. And those ideas include harassing his employees, among other problematic management techniques." She sighed. The company was different before him. Better. Jack studied her face. "You really care about this place, don't you?" "I do," she said simply. "More than most people understand." By the time Marcus finally left the party, Jack and Elara had spent nearly 2 hours talking. When Mia came to tell them the coast was clear, she looked between them with raised eyebrows. "Dad, you're actually smiling. Like, a real smile." Jack rolled his eyes. "I smile. Not like that, you don't." Mia turned to Elara. "Is he being helpful? He can be kind of awkward." "Your father has been a perfect gentleman," Elara said. "Thank you for sending him my way." Mia beamed. "See, Dad? I told you getting out would be good for you." Jack felt his face grow warm again. "I should probably head home. Early client meeting tomorrow." "Of course," Elara said. "Thank you again for coming to my rescue." As Jack turned to leave, she touched his arm. "Would it be completely inappropriate if I asked for your number? In case I need another rescue?" Jack found himself smiling. "Not inappropriate at all." The text came 3 days later, "Dinner as thanks for the rescue? My treat." Jack stared at his phone, surprised by how much he wanted to say yes. He hadn't dated since losing his wife. Between raising Mia and keeping his business afloat, there hadn't been time, or so he told himself. The truth was, he hadn't met anyone who made him want to try again. Until now. "I'd like that," he replied. "When and where?" Their first real date was at a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a side street. Jack arrived early, nervous in a way he hadn't been since his 20s. When Elara walked in wearing jeans and a simple blouse, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail, he felt something in his chest loosen. "You look different," he said as she sat down. "Good different or bad different?" "Just different. More relaxed." She smiled. "Work Elara and real Elara are not the same person. I think I like real Elara." "You barely know her," she pointed out. "I'd like to change that." Over pasta and wine, they talked about everything and nothing. Jack told her about losing his wife to cancer, about raising Mia alone, about the small renovation business he'd built from scratch. Elara spoke of growing up in a family that valued education above all else, of her love for art and architecture, of her dream to make a difference in the world. What she didn't mention was how she was already making that difference, through strategic investments, through the companies she quietly controlled, through the policies she influenced from the shadows. As weeks turned into months, Jack and Elara fell into a comfortable rhythm. They saw each other 2 or 3 times a week, always working around Jack's renovation schedule and Elara's mysterious meetings that could pop up at any hour. "You work too much," he told her one evening as they walked along the riverfront. "Says the man who was up until 2 a.m. finishing blueprints last night." He laughed. "Fair point. But at least I'm my own boss." A shadow crossed her face. "How is Mia doing at Tech Fusion?" "She doesn't tell me much. She loves the work, hates the management." Jack hesitated. Especially since Marcus seems to have turned his attention to her now. Elara stopped walking. "What?" She didn't want to tell you. Thought it might make things awkward between us. Elara's expression hardened in a way Jack had never seen before. That's unacceptable. I told her to document everything and go to HR, but she's worried about her job. She won't lose her job, Elara said with such certainty that Jack gave her a curious look. How can you be so sure? She softened. Just a feeling. Tech Fusion needs bright young talent like Mia. The next day, Marcus Winters was called to an emergency board meeting. By evening, he had been removed as CEO, with the official statement citing leadership concerns and failure to uphold company values. When Jack mentioned the news to Elara that night, she simply nodded. Sometimes justice finds a way. Convenient timing, he said, studying her face. She met his gaze steadily. Very. It was the first moment Jack wondered if there was more to Elara than she let on. 6 months into their relationship, Jack invited Elara to move in with him. His house was small but charming, a craftsman bungalow he'd renovated himself, with a garden Mia had planted before moving into her own apartment. Are you sure? Elara asked, looking around the cozy living room. My life can be complicated. I'm sure, Jack said, taking her hand. I love you, complications and all. She smiled, but there was hesitation in her eyes. There are things about me you don't know. I know enough, he said. I know you're kind. I know you're brilliant. I know you work too hard and care too much. The rest we can figure out together. What Jack didn't know was that Elara had spent the past week in closed-door meetings with her legal team, restructuring her assets and creating new layers of privacy protection. Moving in with Jack meant exposing more of her life to scrutiny, something she'd avoided for years. The first hint that Elara wasn't exactly who she seemed came when they were moving her things into his house. Jack opened a box labeled Office and found stacks of financial reports, legal documents, and folders marked Confidential. Heavy reading for a project manager, he commented. Elara quickly took the box. Research for a special project. Then there were the phone calls, always taken in private, always ending abruptly when he entered the room. The mysterious meetings that couldn't be rescheduled. The way restaurant owners sometimes recognized her and rushed to offer the best table. Have you ever been to this place before? He asked once, after they received particularly deferential service. Once or twice, she said vaguely. For work functions. Jack didn't push. Everyone was entitled to their privacy, and whatever Elara wasn't telling him, he trusted her reasons. That trust was tested 3 months after she moved in, when Jack answered a knock at the door to find 2 serious-looking men in suits. We're looking for Ms. Chen, one said. It's urgent. Before Jack could respond, Elara appeared behind him. It's all right, Jack. These are my colleagues. She stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind her. Through the window, Jack watched her expression change from annoyance to concern as the men spoke. She nodded sharply, then came back inside. I have to go, she said, already reaching for her coat. Work emergency. At 9 p.m. on a Saturday? I'm sorry. She kissed him quickly. Don't wait up. She didn't return until the next morning, exhausted but relieved. When Jack asked what happened, she gave a vague answer about a system failure. Since when do project managers get called in for system failures? He asked. Jack, please. Not now. He let it go, but the questions multiplied. The expensive gifts she bought without blinking. The casual mention of a childhood home that sounded more like an estate. The way she sometimes spoke about business strategies far above her supposed pay grade. The truth finally emerged on a rainy Tuesday evening, nearly a year into their relationship. Jack was working late at a client's house when his phone buzzed with a news alert, breaking, Horizon Investments acquires Tech Fusion in surprise move. He wouldn't have paid attention except for the accompanying photo, the Horizon CEO shaking hands with a familiar figure partially turned away from the camera. Even in profile, he recognized Elara. When he got home, she was sitting at the kitchen table, waiting. You saw the news, she said. It wasn't a question. Were you ever going to tell me? His voice was quiet. Yes. Eventually. She looked down at her hands. I've been trying to find the right time. The right time to mention you're not just a project manager. That you apparently run one of the largest investment firms in the country? I don't run it. Not officially. She met his eyes. I own it. Jack sat down heavily. All this time. I'm still the same person, Jack. Are you? Because the Elara I know wouldn't lie to me for a year. I didn't lie, she said carefully. I just didn't tell you everything. That's a pretty big everything to leave out. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Why, Elara? Why the secrecy? Because people treat me differently when they know. Her voice was soft but firm. They want things from me. They see the money, the power, not the person. With you, it was just me. Just us. So what was I? Some experiment in normal living? No. The pain in her eyes seemed genuine. You are, the most real thing in my life. The only person who sees me, not what I can do for them. Jack stood up, needing space. I need time to process this. I understand. She remained seated, her posture perfect even now. For what it's worth, I was going to tell you tonight. That's why I was waiting up. He looked at her skeptically. It's true, she said. The Tech Fusion acquisition was the final piece. I needed to make sure Mia and the other employees were protected before I could step back from day-to-day operations. She took a deep breath. I'm restructuring Horizon. Stepping back from the shadows. I want a real life, Jack. With you, if you'll still have me. The sincerity in her voice made him pause. Why now? Because I love you, she said simply. And I'm tired of living divided. The night we met, when you pretended to be my boyfriend to help a stranger, that was the first time in years someone had done something for me without an agenda. You saw someone in trouble and you helped. That's who you are. Jack remembered that night, how vulnerable she had seemed, how genuine her gratitude. Had that all been an act? If you're so powerful, why did you need me that night? Couldn't you have just fired Marcus yourself? I could have, she admitted. But that would have exposed my position. And honestly, I was tired of solving problems with money and power. Sometimes a person just needs another person to stand beside them. Jack sat back down, the anger draining away. I don't know what to think anymore. Think about this, Elara said quietly. Everything between us has been real. My feelings, our connection, none of that was pretend. I'm still the woman who loves your terrible dad jokes and steals the covers and burns toast every morning. Despite himself, Jack smiled slightly. You do burn a lot of toast. See? Billionaires, they're just like us. Her attempt at humor fell flat, and she sighed. I'm sorry, Jack. I should have told you sooner. Yes, you should have. Luke.